Hello, everybody, and this is The Cloud Dream of the Nine by Kim Man-Jung. Chapter 8, A Hopeless Dilemma. The eunuch said to Qin Si, "His Majesty, desiring again to see the writing of Master Yang, has commanded me to gather up the fans. May I have yours also?" Qin Si began to cry, saying, "Unhappy being that I am, I thoughtlessly wrote a companion verse under what the Master had written for me, and now it proves my death warrant. If His Majesty sees it, there will be no chance of escape. Rather than die under the arm of the law, I would prefer to take my own life. When I am dead, may I trust you for the burial of my body? Please have pity on me and see that my poor remains are not left to the mercy of the ravens." The eunuch replied, "Why do you, a literary secretary, say such things as these? The emperor is kind and ready to take a liberal view of everything. He would never regard this as a serious offense. Even though he should be angry, I will use my office to placate him. Follow me." Qin Si then followed the eunuch, who left her outside the palace while he went in alone. His Majesty looked at the compositions in order till at last he came to Qin Si's fan, where he found someone else's verses just below Master Yang's. He wondered what it could mean and asked the eunuch. The eunuch said in reply, "Qin Si told me that, never dreaming of your Majesty's asking to see them again, she had boldly written just below the poem of her fan, bringing upon herself a sentence of death. Her purpose now was to take her own life, but I urged her not to do so and brought her here." The emperor read what was written, and it ran as follows: "The rounded fan, like a shining moon, calls me back to the light that was dimmed so soon. I never had thought through my tears and pain that a day would come when we'd meet again." Then His Majesty had read it through. He said, "Qin Si must have had some experience in the past that this refers to. She's highly gifted in her writing and worthy of praise." He then told the eunuch to call her. As she came in, she bowed low in the court and confessed her fault. His Majesty said, "If you tell me the truth, I'll forgive your deadly sin. To whom do you refer in this verse?" Qin Si bowed again and said, "How can I dare to hide anything from your Majesty after what I have done? Before my home was destroyed, Master Yang, on his way to government examination, passed in front of our house. Unexpectedly we saw each other, and on his writing a love song to me, I composed a reply and sent it by a messenger, proposing marriage. He accepted it, and so it was decided upon. The other day in the Hall of Fairies, while in waiting on your Majesty, I saw him again and knew his face, but he did not see me. Your unworthy servant, thinking of what had passed, foolishly wrote this verse which has found me out. I deserve to die 100 deaths." His Majesty, sorry for her sad experience, said, "Can you recall the love song that brought about your engagement of marriage?" Qin Si then wrote it out and presented it to him. He said to her, "Though your fault is a grievous one, still, because you have wonderful ability and are so greatly loved by the Princess Nanyang, I forgive you. Be thankful for my clemency and give your whole heart and attention to the service of the princess." He then gave her fan back, which she received, and after thanking him again, she withdrew. On the same day, Prince Wool returned from the home of Justice Chung and told the emperor that Yang's future was decided, and that he had already sent his marriage presents. At this, the Empress Dowager was very much displeased and said, "Master Yang has already been advanced to the rank of Minister of State, and must know the laws and traditions of the government. How can he be so determined to have his own way?" The emperor replied, "Yang So Yu may have sent his marriage gifts, but that is not the same as having completed the marriage ceremony. I'm sure that if one reasons with him, he will not fail to listen." So the next day, Minister Yang was summoned to the palace, and he at once appeared. The emperor said, "I have a sister who is uncommonly gifted, and apart from yourself, I know of no one who could be a suitable mate for her. Prince Wool has already conveyed to you my wishes. But I hear that you decline and offer as an excuse the fact that you've already sent your marriage gifts to the house of Justice Chung. Evidently, you have not thought the matter over carefully. In olden days, when a choice of imperial daughter-in-law was to be made, sometimes even a wife was chosen, not to speak of one simply betrothed. One ancient king spent a whole life of regret thinking of the women who refused his command. My idea is that we are not just the same people as the nation at large. We are the parents of the people. and therefore what binds the people does not necessarily pertain to us. Even though you should break off your engagement with Justice Chung's daughter, she could easily find another opportunity. As you have not yet celebrated the marriage, in what way can you be said to have broken the law of human deportment? Yang humbly bowed and said in reply, Your Imperial Majesty has not only punished me, but like a father with his sons has kindly and gently admonished me. I thank you most sincerely for this. I have nothing to say further except to add that my circumstances are not like those of others. I'm only a poor literatus from a distant part of the country. I had not even a lodging when I first entered the capital. By the kindness of Justice Chung, I escaped the loneliness that beset me. Not only have I sent the marriage gifts, but I've also taken the place of son-in-law to Justice Chung, and also I've already seen his daughter's face, so that we are as good as husband and wife. That the marriage ceremony was not already performed was due simply to the fact that there were so many affairs of state to see to, and that I have had no opportunity to bring my mother up to the city. Now, fortunately, since the outside states are pacified and there are no longer fears for the government, your humble servant intended to ask a short furlough to return home to bring his mother, choose a day, and have the marriage performed. When unexpectedly your Majesty's commands have come to him, and he is alarmed and knows not what to do. I know that if I obeyed out of the fear of punishment, Chung's daughter would guard her honor safe till death, and never marry elsewhere. But if she should lose her place as wife, would this not be reckoned a flaw in the reign of your Imperial Majesty? The Emperor replied, Your ideas are most correct and good, and yet, if we speak according to the actual conditions of the case, you and Chung's daughter are not really husband and wife. Why should she not marry elsewhere? My wish to decide this marriage with you is not only in order to place you as a pillar of the state and so reward you, but also to please the Empress Dowager, who is greatly taken with you bearing and commanding gifts, and does not leave me free to act as I might wish. Still, Yang emphatically declined. The Emperor said, Marriage is a very important matter, and so cannot be settled by a single conference. Let us have a game of Go, and help to pass the time. His Majesty then ordered a eunuch to bring a Go board, and they sat down, Emperor and Minister, to try their skill. Only when the day grew late did they cease to play. Yang returned home, and Justice Chung met him with a very sorrowful countenance. Wiping his eyes, he said, Today a command came from the Empress Dowager to send back to you your marriage gifts. So I passed the order on to Cloudlet, and they are now in the park pavilion. If we think of it from our side, it puts us two old people in a very pitiful plight. I might bear it, but my old wife is overcome by it and has been rendered ill and is now unconscious and unable to recognize her friends. Greatly upset by this, Yang turned pale and was unable for an hour or so to say anything in reply. At last he said, If they realize the unfairness of this, and if I memorialize the government against it with all my heart, will they not heed? The justice waved his hand in opposition. Master Yang, you've already run counter to the imperial orders. If you petition against it, I fear for the result. You may be severely punished. Your only way is to submit. Besides, too, under the circumstances, your living here at the park pavilion will be embarrassing, so if you can find a suitable place elsewhere, you'd better move. Yang made no reply, but went into the park pavilion, and there was Cloudlet with tearful face and broken voice, who offered him the marriage gifts. As you know, said she, I was ordered by the young mistress to wait on your lordship. I have been kindly treated and am grateful to you, but the devils have been jealous, and men have looked askance at our happiness, so that all has come to naught, and the marriage expectations of the young lady are hopelessly ended. I, too, must bid you a long farewell and return to my mistress. Is it God, or Mother Earth, or devils, or men who have done it? Her sobs and tears were most distressing. I intend to petition His Majesty, said Yang, and I'm sure he will listen, but even though he does not, when once a young woman has yielded her consent, her following her husband is one of the first laws of nature. How can you possibly leave me? Cloudlet replied, Though I am only of the lower class, still I have heard the sayings of the sages and am not unaware of the three relationships that governs a woman's life. My circumstances, however, are peculiar and different from those of others. I played from your earliest years with a young lady and was brought up with her. All thoughts of difference in station were dropped, and we swore a solemn oath to live and die together, to accept the fortunes of life with the glory and shame that might come to us. My following the lady is like the shadow following the body. When once the body disappears, how can the shadow play a part alone? Yang answered, Your devotion to your mistress is most commendable, but your lady's person and yours are different. While she goes north, south, east, or west as she chooses, your following her, and at the same time attempting to render service to another, would break all the laws that govern a woman's existence. Cloudlet said, Your words prove that you do not know the mind of my mistress. She's already decided to remain with her aged parents. When they die, she will preserve her purity, cut off her hair, enter a monastery, and give herself up in prayer to the Buddha, in the hope that in the life to come she may not be born a woman. I, too, will do just the same as she. If your lordship intends to see me again, your marriage gifts must go back to the rooms of my lady. If not, then today marks our parting for life. Since I have waited on your lordship, I have been greatly loved and favored, and I can never repay, even in 100 years, 1,000th part of your kindness. It's turned out, however, different from what we had anticipated, and we are come now to this dire extremity. My one wish is that in the life to come I may be your faithful dog or horse, or may show my devotion to you. Please, noble master, may all blessings and happiness be upon you. She turned away and wept bitterly. A moment later she stepped from the veranda, bowed twice, and entered the women's apartments. The master's heart was greatly disturbed, and all his thoughts were in confusion. He looked up at the sky and sighed long and deeply. He clasped his hands and drew hopeless, gasping breaths, saying, I must petition His Majesty with all my heart. So he wrote out his memorial, which was full of earnestness, and ran thus, The servant of your Imperial Majesty, Yang-So-Yu, bows low and prostrates himself in the dust as he offers this memorial. In deepest reverence he would say, The primary laws are the foundation stone on which your Imperial Majesty's government rests, and marriage is the first of these laws. If once we lose its right relation, all prosperity for the state ends. Confusion and disorder must follow. If we fail to exercise care in regard to this fundamental matter, the house affected by it will not long endure. Matters of state prosperity rest here also. Therefore the sages and the specially enlightened ones thought carefully of this in the governing of a country, and regarded the correct observance of the primal laws as the most important thing of all, and considered that in a well-ordered house marriage was of greatest importance. Your humble servant had already sent his gifts to the daughter of Justice Chung, and already had become a member of his household. After this he had been accomplished. He is, by your gracious command, unexpectedly and unworthily chosen as the imperial son-in-law. At first he was in doubt, and finally he was reduced to great distress and fear. He fails to see that the decision of your Imperial Majesty and the approval of the government is in accord with the established laws of ceremony. Even though your humble subject had not sent the required gifts, still his social position is so inferior, and his knowledge so circumscribed, that these alone would disqualify his being chosen as the imperial son-in-law. Also, he is already the son-in-law of Justice Chung, and though the whole 6 forms are not yet completed, it is the same as an accomplished marriage. How can Her Highness, the Crown Princess, ever bow to one so low as he? And how can your Majesty let pass so improper a proceeding without close investigation, or permit so grave a breach of form without searching inquiry? Alas, a secret order has come forth making null and void that part already accomplished, and commanding the return of accepted marriage gifts, a thing that your humble servant could never have dreamed possible. The petitioner fears that on his account the government of your Majesty may suffer permanent loss, and the laws that rule society will be hopelessly damaged, that in high places truth will be forfeited, and that in low places violence and wrongdoing may result. He earnestly prays that your High Majesty will stand by the rock on which the state rests, reverse the order that's gone forth, and set your humble servant's heart free. The emperor read the memorial and showed it to the Empress Dowager. The Empress was very angry and ordered the arrest of Yang-So-Yu, but the various officers of the government used their united efforts against such a proceeding. The emperor himself said, I think it would be going too far to arrest him, but the fact that the Empress Dowager is so angry renders it impossible for me to forgive him out and out. Several months went by, and the Empress did not recognize Yang or show any signs of yielding. Justice Chung, too, was under a cloud, so that he closed his doors and saw no one. At this time, the Tibetans, with an army of 100,000 men, made sudden invasion into China proper and took possession of certain cities and territories. The advanced outposts had come as far as the bridge of Wei, so that the capital itself was in great confusion. The emperor assembled his ministers and conferred with them. They replied, "The soldiers of the capital do not exceed a few thousands, and those of the provinces are far away and out of reach. Your Majesty, therefore, ought to leave the capital for a time, make a wide circuit eastward, muster all the soldiers from the various districts, and set matters right." The emperor could not decide, but said, "Among all my retainers, Yang So-yu is the most resourceful in the way of plans and proposals, and has excellent judgment. I found him the very soul of wisdom heretofore. The 3 states that we returned to order and submission were brought so by his merit." He then dismissed the assembly and appealed to the emperor's dowager. "Let us forgive So-yu, call him and ask what plans he would suggest." So-yu was called and said, "In the capital are the tombs of the imperial ancestors and the palaces. If your Majesty were to turn your back on them, the people would be greatly disturbed. At such a moment, if a powerful enemy were to enter the city, it would be exceedingly hard ever to dislodge him. In the days of Taizong, the Tibetans, along with the Mohammedan tribes, marshaled 1,000,000 men or so and attacked the capital. At that time the forces in the city were not equal to the present, but with his cavalry, Prince Kwak Cha-Hue drove them off and defeated them. My powers and gifts are not in any sense equal to those of Kwak's, but with a few thousand good soldiers I can settle accounts with these invaders, and so repay a little the great favors accorded me by your imperial majesty." The emperor at once appointed Yang as generalissimo, and allowed him to set out from the barracks with 30,000 troops to attack the Tibetan army. Yang said the word of farewell, drew up his army, and encamped near the bridge of Wei. He drove back the vanguard of the enemy and took prisoner Prince Choa-Wan, so that the enemy were thrown into confusion, and many troops hid themselves or ran away. He followed up this advantage at once and fought 3 battles, beating the enemy badly, killing about 30,000 men and taking 8,000 horses. From this place he sent a memorial of his victory to the emperor. His Majesty was greatly pleased, ordered his return, and appointed for each general gifts according to his merit. The message sent by His Excellency ran thus: "I have heard it said that the imperial troops are ever to be depended on. I have heard it also said that troops who always win think lightly of the enemy, and are not anxious to take advantage of special moments of weakness or hunger. This is a mistake. I cannot say that the enemy is not strong, or that they are not well equipped in arms. They have rebelled against their sovereign, and we ought to await only the moment of their great disadvantage to make our final attack. Their condition grows less favorable for them daily. It says in the Book of Wars, 'Labor hard to strike the enemy in the moment of his hardest labor.' One who fails to conquer then will simply fail from lack of skill. Already the enemy is broken and on the run. Their weakness is evident. All the districts along the way have abundant provisions piled up for us, so that we have no fear. The wide plains and broad valleys are at our service, and the enemy has no place in which to pitch his camp. If we follow them sharply with fast cavalry, we can make them completely ours. But if your Majesty rests now with a partial victory, our best opportunity will be lost. To cease from the attack is not good policy in your service opinion. My wish, with your gracious permission, is to set the troops at once in motion, follow into the enemy's camp, burn them out, and make sure that not another armed man will cross the border, or another arrow be shot at us, and so remove from your Majesty all anxiety." The emperor read this memorial and was greatly struck by the wisdom of it. He advanced Yang to the rank of chief commissioner and minister of war. He gave him his own sword, bow and arrows, embroidered belt, white flag, and gilded battle-axe, and wrote out a command mustering further troops from north, east, and west. Yang So-yu received this, bowed his thanks towards the palace, selected a propitious day, made the necessary sacrifices, and then set out. His disposition of the army was according to the ancient 6 laws, and his arrangement of the camp according to the 8 diagrams. All were under strict discipline. Like rushing water, they went forth and straight as the splitting bamboo. In a few months the lost territory was recovered, and Yang's main forces had arrived at the foot of the Choksol Mountains. A strange sign occurred there. A great whirlwind appeared in front of his horse and broke into the camp and passed by. On this the master cast the horoscope and learned that the enemy would attack his forces with great vigor, but that in the end he would be victorious. He pitched his camp under the lee of a mountain and scattered about it caltrops and Spanish riders to keep off the enemy. At this time the general was seated in his tent with a lighted candle before him, reading certain military dispatches, while the guards outside had already announced the 3rd watch of the night. Suddenly a cold wind extinguished the light and the candle, and an eerie chill filled the tent. At this moment a maiden stepped in upon him from the upper air, and stood before him with a glittering double-edged sword in her hand. The general, guessing her to be an assassin, did not quail before her, but stood his ground sternly and boldly asked, "What kind of creature are you, and what is your intention coming thus into the camp by night?" She said in reply, "I am under command of King Chanbo of Tibet to have thy head." The general laughed. "The superior man," said he, "never fears to die. Take my head, will you not, and go?" Then she threw down her sword, bowed low, and said in reply, "My noble lord, do not be anxious. How could your servant ever dare to cause you fear?" The general then raised her up, saying, "You've come into the camp with a sword girded at your side, and now you say you will not harm me? Pray, what is your meaning?" "I would like to tell you," said she, "all my past history, but I cannot do so in a moment." Then the general asked her to sit down and inquired of her, "Your ladyship, not fearing the terror of my forces, has come seeking me. There must be some beneficent purpose in your mind. Tell me, please." The lady made reply, "Though I am called an assassin, yet really I have no heart for anything of the kind. I will tell your lordship exactly what my mind meditates." She got up, lit the lamp again, and came close to the general and sat down. He looked at her. Her cloud-like hair was fastened with a golden pin. She wore a narrow-sleeved outer coat with a military jacket underneath, embroidered with stone and bamboo designs. She wore phoenix-tail shoes, and at her belt hung a dragon sword. Her face was bright like rose petals with dew upon them. She opened her lips, which were red as the cherry, and spoke slowly in tones like the oriole, saying, "Your servant came originally from Yangju County, where for generations we've been subject of the Tongs. I lost my parents when young, and became a disciple of a woman who was a great master in sword drill. She taught me her art. My name is Sim Nyo Yon, commonly spoken of as the Swallow. 3 years after learning the science of the sword, I learned also that of metamorphosis, to ride the winds, to follow the lightnings, and in an instant to travel 1,000 li. Several of us were taught, and we were all about alike in our sword skill, but when the teacher had some special enemy to destroy or some wicked person to kill, she invariably sent one of the others to do it. She never sent me. I was angry at this and asked, "We all alike have followed our teacher and have been taught the same lessons, yet I alone have made no return to you for your kindness. Is it because my skill is poor that I could not be trusted to carry out the will of my mistress that you failed to send me?" The teacher then said, "You are not of our race. Later you will hear the truth and be made perfect. If I were to send you as I do the others, to kill and to destroy, it would forever mar your virtue. For this reason I do not send you." I asked again, saying, "If that be so, then of what use is my practicing sword drill?" The teacher replied, "Your appointed mate lives in the Tong kingdom, and he is a great and noted lord. You are in a foreign land, and there is no other way by which you can meet him. By means of my teaching you this insignificant craft, you may come face to face with your special affinity. In your search you will enter a military camp of 1,000,000 men, and among the swords and spears you will find him. The Emperor of the Tongs, I know, is to send a great general against the Tibetans, and King Chanbo has issued a proclamation calling for assassins who are ready to destroy this appointed leader. Do not miss the opportunity to descend from the hills. Go at once to Tibet and show your skill with the swordsmen of that country. On the one side, you can save them from the danger that the Tongs threaten, and on the other, you can meet your master. I received the commands of my teacher and went at once to Tibet, tore off the notice and found on the city gate, and carried it to the king. He called me and allowed me to try my skill with others. In a few minutes I had struck off the top knots of more than 10 persons. The king was greatly delighted and chose me, saying, "When you bring me the head of the general of the Tongs, I will make you my queen." Now that I've met your excellency, I find that my teacher's words have come true, and my desire is to join those who wait on you and share a part in your life. Will you consent? The general, greatly surprised and delighted, answered, "Your ladyship's already spared this head of mine that was doomed, and now you wish to serve me? How shall I repay you? My wish is to bind you to me by endless contract of marriage." And thus they plighted their troth. Around the tent the glitter of swords and spears served for candlelight, and the sound of cymbals for the festal harp. This marriage hall within the warlike enclosure was a happier one than was ever that of shimmering silks or embroidered screens. From this day forth the general fell a victim to the fair one, and took no account of officers or men. Days passed thus, when Sim the Swallow said, "A military camp is no place for women. I fear that I shall hinder the movement of the troops, so I must go." The general replied, "But your ladyship is not a common woman. I hope that you'll stay and teach me some special craft or science that pertains to war, so as to defeat these rebels. Why should you leave me?" "Your lordship," said Swallow, "does not need me, but with your power will easily destroy the haunts of the rebel. Why should you fear? Though I came forth by order of my superior, yet I have not said my farewell to her, so I shall go back to my teacher in the hills and await your return to the capital. By and by I shall meet you there." The general asked, "After you're gone, in case Chanbo sends another assassin, how shall I defend myself?" Swallow said, "Though there are many assassins, they're not my equals, and if your lordship accepts me as your devoted one, all danger is dispelled." She then felt at her belt, drew forth a jewel, and gave it to him, saying, "The name of this is Myo Ye Wan, a pin that King Chanbo wore in his headdress. Please send a messenger to him with it, saying I shall return no more." The general inquired further, "Have you no other matters to suggest?" Swallow said, "On your way ahead you will pass a place called Pansa Gok, where good drinking water will fail you. Make all haste to dig wells when there, so that the soldiers may not die of thirst." He desired to ask further questions, but Swallow gave a leap into the air and was gone. The general then called his officers to him and told them of her coming. With one accord they said, "Your excellency's luck is like that of the gods, and your power to affright the rebels is by means of angels who come to help you."